were friends with some people who owned a lion park.
Next year, May, will be 20 years since my car accident happened.
In a freak accident, I got bitten by a lion.
Group of friends, we went to Kimberley for the weekend for one of my friends' 21st birthday. And on the Sunday, late afternoon, all of us went back in 2 separate cars.
And yeah, her tooth went straight through my bone. And I was in recovery for many months, had many operations as well. I also my hand was paralyzed because my radial nerve had been severed.
30 kilometers outside of Bloem, someone had left their broken bakkie in the middle of the road without warning triangle, without any warning lights on. And my friend that was driving our car, fortunately she saw it right in time, and then she swerved. And then she lost control and rolled the car 120 kilometers an hour down a hill. I fell out. I was sitting at the back of the car. Broke my back instantly and couldn't feel my lower limbs at all. And the prognosis was 1% chance of ever being able to walk again, according to the doctor, because my spinal cord was completely severed. The only thing that remained, unfortunately, is chronic neuropathic pain, which is quite severe. But one day at a time with God.
Because I was young and because the nerve was just severed and not fully cut, the doctors were like, there's a possibility that it could grow back. And my dad always says he remembers like the moment he saw a flicker in my hand. All of that is just like a miracle of God, that I kept my arm, that like the nerve grew back, and that I have like full movement of my arm is just like amazing, and just like so grateful to God.
I grew up in a Christian home when I was a little girl, so we always went to NG Kerk, and I was exposed to church and Christianity, but for me the relationship with God was never there.
Since I was a little girl, I've known about Jesus and known that I'm a sinner and that I need to be saved by him. Obviously have had like highs and lows in my faith. I've like dealt with a lot of doubt, done a lot of searching, but God has been very faithful.
And it was only at varsity, I remember, when some of my friends used to invite me to church all the time, and they wouldn't stop nagging until one day I finally just gave in. But I knew God must have had my name written on the palm of his hand when I went, because it was 3 months before my car accident where I remember I gave my life over to Jesus. That is something that people often ask me, is how can you believe in a God that's love and kind, that he would let something like this happen 3 months after you had given your life over to him and decided to follow him? And my answer is always, if it wasn't for that, then how would I ever have been able to do this journey? I'm so grateful, that he is sovereign and that he has my life in his hands and that he is in control, because he knows the plans that he has for me.
Although I did get full movement back and my arm healed, I didn't have full extension of my arm. So when I would lift my arm like this, it was slightly bent. So fast forward to 2022, I've moved to Cape Town and I'm studying here, and I've just joined Common Ground like a few months before, and it was just a normal Wednesday, was going to life group, and there were some other leaders from the church who were visiting our life group. He explained like what healing is and how sometimes it doesn't happen. It's like the will of God. Like sometimes God grants that healing, sometimes he doesn't. Like we still know that God is good. It doesn't mean God doesn't love anyone, or and it also doesn't depend on like the person and their faith. So I went up, he prayed for me, and I lifted my arm up, and I couldn't believe it. It just kept going, and it straightened. What just happened? Like, there's no way It was such a moment where it was just so undeniable. It was like everyone had just seen, and I knew that I couldn't fully extend my arm. Like, I couldn't deny it, you know? I didn't bring, like, any amount of faith or, like, belief that God was going to do anything. And yet he was so gracious in granting that.
It's always been such a dream of my heart to be a mom. And then, the miracle of Katie Grace happened. She is so wonderful, but it's been so tough. I mean, initially I thought it's only the baby phase that's going to be tough. It's still tough now to this day because each and every single year brings a new challenge and something new to deal with. As an example, on our very first day of school, grade 1, I couldn't get into a classroom, and it's not anyone's fault. It's just what it is. And then eventually I had to take a detour. And then when I arrived, the year stood my poor little child in front of the class, all teary because she thought her mom had left her. And then I just said, no, mommy was on her way. I just sort of had to find a way to get to you, and it took a bit longer, but here I am. And that's the story of my life, is everything takes longer. And that's what it is. I had to learn patience on whole new levels. If I look back over the last 20 years, it's amazing how when you are a newborn Christian almost, and that exuberant, newly found faith, you are on this path of naming it and claiming it, and you are just so on fire. But God is with you in that, and he was with me for sure. But as the time went on, and over the 20 years, life happens and it's hard. There's a lot of ups and downs, and but he's in the waiting, and that's what's amazing, is like the faith shifts to see him more for who he is. And for me, he knows my relationship with him is my be all and end all. And if he chooses not to heal me during this lifetime, I can say in absolute faith that if I have Jesus, that's enough for me. That really is. And it's a tough thing to be able to say, because it's hard, but it's the truth.
The miracle points to how God does the work, how in anything we do, and like including our salvation, like it's the work of God. Like, we cannot bring anything to the table, and I feel like this is a picture of that. I didn't deserve to be healed, and I didn't bring like anything to the table, but like God was gracious, and yeah, he did the work. God works in our lives and saves us. It's all his work. Yeah, and his graciousness and his mercy.